There's a basic truth in basketball that often separates successful teams from struggling ones. The ball has to move toward the best shot, not the strongest ego. At its core, basketball is built on rhythm, spacing, passing, and trust. When 5 players operate together, the game flows like a system rather than a collection of individual actions. But that balance can break down when possessions become overly dominated by one style of play or decision-making. In Indiana's case, the discussion has centered around how a highly skilled playmaker like Caitlin Clark fits alongside established guards such as Kelsey Mitchell, and whether the flow consistently maximizes everyone's strengths. Supporters of Clark point to her ability to read the floor and create opportunities that elevate teammates, while others argue the offense can sometimes become more isolation-heavy in key stretches. The debate ultimately reflects a larger question about team chemistry and fit, how a roster blends individual talent into a cohesive system that consistently produces efficient, winning basketball. Caitlin Clark, who shattered collegiate scoring and assist records with her ability to create for teammates, is often at the center of debates about how the Indiana Fever structure their offense around her strengths. Many of those discussions focus on transition play, where Clark typically thrives due to her vision, speed of processing, and ability to accurate passes in open space. In a fast-paced system, those moments are usually seen as key opportunities to generate high-quality shots before the defense is fully set. However, analysts and fans often scrutinize individual possessions where the Fever choose different reads in transition, sometimes finishing quickly instead of resetting for a potential playmaking opportunity. These sequences have become part of a broader conversation about team chemistry, offensive decision-making, and how effectively the roster is maximizing its most dynamic playmakers within the system.
Shit. Tired of watching Kelsey Mitchell jacking up shots, man. Pass the ball. Just running around shooting and shooting and shooting. Kelsey Mitchell, fast break layup, smokes the layup. You do all this shooting and your ass can't make a wide open fast break layup, messing up a Caitlin Clark assist. She'd had a double-double if you would have just made your damn layup. Like, what? Look at this. Kelsey Mitchell, she's gonna...
Look at the sequence, because from a coaching standpoint, it's a breakdown of execution at multiple levels. Kelsey Mitchell pushes the pace, which in principle is the right decision, but the possession quickly shifts into tunnel vision as she commits to the finish without reading the floor. The result is a missed wide-open fast break layup that should have been an easy 2 points in transition. In a game built on momentum, that kind of missed opportunity doesn't just erase points, it disrupts rhythm and can affect team energy after a defensive stop that was supposed to create momentum. Caitlin Clark is running the floor in support, available as an outlet, which makes the decision to force the shot even more questionable in the context of optimal ball movement. Beyond the missed layup itself, the larger issue being highlighted is offensive stagnation when the ball sticks in one player's hands for too long. In modern WNBA systems, efficiency depends heavily on pace, quick decisions, and constant ball movement to force defensive rotations. When possessions slow down and dribbles dominate, the rest of the offense becomes static, spacing collapses, and teammates are reduced to spectators rather than active participants in the flow of the game.
The clock when Kelsey has the ball. Look how much time she has on the clock. Look at this. Right there, it's 15 seconds. Let me show y'all this, man. She got the ball with 16 seconds on the clock. 16 seconds. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now Sophie just got to throw it up.
The sequence is often described by critics as a breakdown in offensive decision-making under transition pressure. With 16 seconds left on the shot clock, Kelsey Mitchell brings the ball up and initially has options in early offense, but the possession gradually slows as she continues to dribble without initiating a pass, screen action, or clear advantage creation. As the clock ticks down, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10 seconds, the offense becomes increasingly static, with teammates largely spaced but not actively engaged in movement or cuts that could shift the defense. In that span, Caitlin Clark is visible in transition and available as a potential outlet, but the ball never rotates to her side, and the possession eventually breaks down into a late-clock, low-efficiency shot attempt. From an analytical standpoint, this type of sequence is often used to illustrate how excessive dribbling and lack of ball movement can stall offensive rhythm, reduce spacing effectiveness, and force contested shots. While isolated possessions like this can happen in any game, critics point to them as examples of how inconsistent flow and decision timing can impact overall team efficiency and chemistry.
This is the thing. Look at how much she's dribbling, bro. It's like pass the rock, man. Kelsey, you got to pass the ball, bro. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 dribbles. 14 dribbles, bro. It's like, I get it. You made the layup. But why are you taking 14 dribbles to shoot?
On that possession, critics focus less on the final result and more on the process that led there. After a prolonged isolation sequence involving roughly 14 dribbles, Kelsey Mitchell ultimately converts a difficult layup, but the argument being made is that successful outcomes do not always validate inefficient decision-making. From an analytical standpoint, possessions that rely heavily on extended dribbling and late clock creation can become difficult to sustain against elite defenses, where help rotations and rim protection are far more organized. In that context, observers often point to the impact on team structure, noting that when the ball sticks in isolation, off-ball actions like screens.
Clark's gonna pass the ball, gives it to Kelsey, or Monique Billings. Monique's Billings give it to Kelsey. She's gonna throw it up. Jonquel Jones is 6'8", Kelsey. Why are you just going in, throwing it up? Look at this. Jonquel Jones is 6'8", Kelsey. Pass the ball. Pass the ball. I'm sick of watching this, man. I'm sick of watching this girl. All you do is...
On that possession, the focus shifts to the defensive structure and decision-making under pressure. Jonquel Jones is positioned as a primary rim protector, standing as a significant interior presence at 6 feet 6 inches, with the defense naturally collapsing toward the paint. In that situation, the standard read for a guard is to draw the help defender and then kick the ball out to an open perimeter shooter or drop it off to a cutter once the defense overcommits. However, the play instead results in a contested attempt at the rim over heavy interior coverage, which eliminates the opportunity to exploit the defensive rotation. From a tactical perspective, this type of decision removes potential high-efficiency outcomes such as open threes or easy interior passes and instead forces a difficult finish against set defense. The broader analytical takeaway is that when possessions become overly focused on individual shot creation, it can limit the offense's ability to consistently capitalize on defensive help schemes and rotations.
There's no way Caitlin Clark can play with this girl, man. It just is what it is. It just is what it is, bro. Let's count how many dribbles she had before her turnover. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 dribbles and a turnover. 13 dribbles and a turnover. The lady don't want to pass the ball to nobody, y'all. Nobody. 13 dribbles and a turnover.
On this possession, the breakdown comes from extended dribble exposure that allows the defense to settle and eventually trap without needing anything overly aggressive. After 13 dribbles, the ball handler is forced into a turnover that stems more from lack of pressure relief than any complex defensive action. Throughout the sequence, the key issue is floor awareness, as the ball handler appears focused on the dribble and the rim rather than consistently scanning for teammates or shifting defensive help. As the possession develops, players like Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston are positioned as potential outlets but are not engaged in the action, which limits offensive flexibility. The result is a live ball turnover that immediately fuels a transition opportunity for the opposing team. From an analytical standpoint, this type of sequence highlights how excessive dribbling and delayed decision-making can disrupt spacing, reduce passing options, and stall an otherwise structured offensive.
Get her 20, she's cool. She don't care about nothing else. At this point, she got 19 points. She's trying to pad her stats and get her 20. She's going to force a bucket right here. Game is over already. Look at this. I ain't passing this shit. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get my 20. That's Kelsey Mitchell for you. That is Kelsey Mitchell for you. That is what Caitlin Clark is stuck dealing with. That is what Caitlin Clark is stuck dealing with.
The sequence, when viewed through a film lens, shows how late clock possessions can drift away from structured offense and into extended isolation, where decision timing becomes the defining factor of the result. After multiple dribbles and a prolonged attempt to create a shot off the bounce, the defense is allowed to fully load up, shrink driving lanes, and eliminate passing angles without needing to gamble or overextend. As the possession progresses, the offensive spacing begins to flatten, with off-ball players staying positioned but not actively engaged through cuts or screening actions that could shift defensive attention. This kind of stagnation reduces the value of elite floor spacers like Caitlin Clark, who are most effective when the ball is moved early enough to trigger rotations rather than held in place until the defense is already set. By the time the possession reaches its final phase, the offense is forced into a low-percentage shot or turnover situation because the window for a higher efficiency read, kickouts, secondary actions, or advantage passing has already closed. From a coaching and analytics perspective, this is less about individual intent and more about structure under pressure. When possessions consistently extend into heavy dribble usage without early reads, even talented offenses can lose rhythm, become predictable, and struggle to generate the type of clean looks that sustain efficiency over the course of a game. She shows clear willingness to move the ball and operate within flow when the system supports it, but the bigger question is whether the current offensive structure consistently reinforces those habits across the backcourt. In stretches where possessions become more isolation-heavy and late-clock-driven, the spacing and off-ball movement that normally benefit elite playmakers like Caitlin Clark can become harder to sustain, especially when the defense has time to load up and take away passing lanes. That puts more pressure on individual creation rather than collective action, which can make the offense feel stagnant over long stretches of a game. From a roster-building perspective, this is where coaching philosophy, personnel fit, and role definition all intersect, because even talented guards can look disconnected from a system if the timing and structure don't consistently emphasize early reads, ball reversals, and shared decision-making. The real question for Indiana moving forward is not about single possessions in isolation, but whether the offensive identity can reliably generate pace, trust, and repetition of high-quality looks for everyone involved.